Joining me now in studio is Robert Greenwald. He's at, of course, Brave New Films. You guys have seen him many times. He's now directing the movie Suppress, The Fight to Vote. He's also one of the best progressive fighters in the country, one of the best people in the country, but I'm biased.
Thank you.
So great to have you here, Robert.
Good to be back.
I'm going to embarrass you further. He is won awards from the ACLU, Physicians for Social Responsibility, Office of the America's Activists in the Trenches. He's got a Liberty Hill Upton Sinclair Award, a Robert Wood Johnson Award, and a Peacemaker Award. How's that, okay? Just to let you know, I'm not really biased. He actually is one of the best progressives in the country. All right, so Robert, you got a movie out about voter suppression. We talked about it earlier in the show, actually, in terms of the now they're doing it in Georgia and Wisconsin again. So tell us what the overall issue is first, and then why you made the movie.
The movie is about voter suppression because all the other, if you believe in voting and you believe in democracy, not everybody does, but if you do, every other issue pales unless people are able to vote. So zillions of dollars and incredible amount of work is going into registering people and getting people to vote. But then if they get to the polls and they can't vote because of organized, planned, and for the most part legal voting suppression, then the whole issue becomes how do we make change through the electoral process. Others believe there are other ways to make change. But if you believe in the electoral process and people are literally denied their vote, it's quite an issue and an important one. We got involved because I'd seen a few things about Georgia and I thought, well, maybe we'll do a 5-minute piece. Well, as I got into it and the researchers and the producers kept coming to me with stories, I really had moments where I felt I was not in this country. I was in some other country. Wonderful, patriotic, 89-year-old guy closing his polling place. He wouldn't be able to vote. Student voting for the first time was denied the right to vote. People waiting on, how long would you wait online to vote?
Well, I mean, I got to do the show. On the other hand, ain't nobody taking my vote away. But it is, I mean, I'm busy. And so if I have to wait longer than 10 minutes, get super antsy.
2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, and 6 hours. People who have jobs.
How can you wait 6 hours if you got a job? It's insane.
Well, you're being penalized, you're losing pay. So in a way it becomes a financial burden as well as the amount of time. And as you see in the film, which is free, by the way, as all our films are, you see the incredible toll it takes on people's soul and spirit and lifeblood.
Yeah, by the way, bravenewfilms.org/suppressed if you want to watch the movie. We'll have the link down below later on YouTube and Facebook if you're watching.
And also we're trying to have, by 2020, our goal, by the 2020 election, is 2,020 screenings around the country.
Yeah.
We're at 950. I assume by the time we finish, we'll be at 2,000, thanks to your audience. So there's a strong goal there for all of you out there.
That's right. Well, you guys are mighty. So look, what you're saying about if you don't have the right to vote, everything else is pointless, is the argument I make about money in politics. There are certain core issues regarding electoral politics that if we don't straighten that out, we don't have a democracy. Then the other issues become moot because you can't actually choose your own representatives, your own senators, your own governors. And so this is one of those. But you mentioned something there that was interesting. You said sometimes this is legal. So what do you mean by that?
Well, it is legal in the sense that they're not going in and overtly breaking the law. But what they're doing, and you can see it in the film, we lay it out, by the way, 8 or 9 different tactics where it's moving polling places. Well, it's legal to move a polling place, but what happens is they move them in from African-American areas, so they have to wait in line longer. Students have to wait on long. Long lines are a question of resource allocations. So they literally had polling stations locked up in closets when there were areas of Georgia and other parts of the country where people waited these incredible times. Perfect match. Your exact name with maybe a hyphen is on your Social Security. It's slightly different without the hyphen, same name on your driver's license. Can't do it. We have an Iraq war veteran who says it was easier for him to vote from Iraq absentee ballot than it was when he was in the state next to Georgia. So those are the tactics that he used. Now, the conservatives, the right-wing Republicans have been incredibly smart. They've been strategic. It's infuriating, but they've planned this. And as one of our experts says, Dr. Carol Anderson, it's not a Ku Klux Klan guy. It's bureaucrats all around the state and around the country in different states who are organizing and doing this, which is why I feel so passionately about the film and making it available for people to see and then take action.
So, Robert, if it turned out that it was random and in some states it favored Republicans and other states it favored Democrats, well, that'd be a different issue. Like, oh, well, they had to clean up the voter rolls, we get it, and it was even. But it's never even. Never. Like, so in Wisconsin, the latest one, Madison and Milwaukee are more Democratic. They represent about 14% of the voters. But of the voters purged, they were 23% of the voters purged, not 14. Yep. And 55% of the people that were purged were Democrats, so a giant 10-point lead for Republicans on that. And these are really close elections in places like Wisconsin and Georgia. So what can Democrats do? Well, I mean, there's the Voting Rights Act. Is any of this applicable anymore, or can Republicans just cheat whenever they want and we got to throw up our hands?
No, we don't throw up our hands. We fight like hell. We get out there, we organize, and there are actions we can take. So there's a series of lawsuits. There are great groups all around the country. I'm particularly familiar with Stacey Abrams, a heroine of the highest proportion, her group in Georgia, and they're now going nationally to work on this. The ACLU has done amazing work around the country. Black Votes Matter. The list goes on and on. It's not one cause and it's not one solution. So you find the group or you find the way you think is the strongest way to raise some hell, legally, electorally, picketing, marching, showing up. Lawyers are going to be at the voting places. There's really quite a large number of tactics. And the good news is, in some states there have been changes, and voting is being made more available. Same-day voting, former felons voting. So there is progress. Unfortunately, the last 3 days have been a horror show of the reason for the movement. 500,000 people between Georgia and Wisconsin have been purged. 500,000 people.
Yes, and the Wisconsin governor, who's a Democrat, won by only 30,000 votes. They get rid of 230,000 people on the voter rolls. Well, then he's far less likely to win re-election. So, which leads me to the next question. So, the Democratic Party is forever too civil, right? And I'm wondering why. So Stacey Abrams is a great example of the opposite direction. Like, we love her because she fought back. She didn't concede the election. She said they cheated, right? And so, I remember the Democratic Party getting really nervous, like, what? No, we don't say that. But they did cheat, and they targeted African American voters in specific. And that election was also razor thin. If they hadn't cheated, she almost certainly would have won.
For sure, and I mean for sure. And when I started, I wasn't sure, was it the boy who cried wolf? But I got to tell you, a few weeks into it, where incident after incident, number after number, in Stacey Abrams' speech, she says, that she will not concede. We call it the speech now because it was so powerful and so strong and so right. And this is a woman of incredible integrity and class, and she was saying they took it away, and the numbers are very clear. Any one of the tactics, had they not used it successfully, she would have won the election. She would have been the governor of Georgia.
So Stacey Abrams is a shining example of fighting back. So what on God's green earth could explain the rest of the Democratic Party? Because when these things happen, yes, they do the lawsuits. I want to give credit where credit is due, and they do some tactics. But overall, they don't say the word I just said. They cheated, okay? When you rob African Americans of the right to vote, you are cheating, and you do it for racist reasons. But they seem reluctant to say that, and this should be an easy one, it's a layup. There's no corporate donors here, there's no influence of money. This is their actual power that's on the line. And my God, if you don't fight on this, you ain't gonna fight on anything. So why? Why won't the Democrats be more aggressive here?
Well, if we had maybe 3 or 4 hours, we could have a deep discussion about psychology and policy and bureaucracy and bad habits and people who get used to losing. But I do think, because I tend to look at the potential, I do think the potential on this issue is really important for all the reasons you suggest. It's a way to galvanize people. It's a way to bring racism front and center, so we have to look at it. We see what's going on, and we have to say no. How can we in this year be fighting for the rights of African Americans to vote? It is obscene, and therefore, I think it's an issue that can and will galvanize people.
See, you almost did a movie version of the press conference I wanted to do the day after the Stacey Abrams election, which is have the Democrats go find, for example, 4 African American voters, but it doesn't have to be African American, but largely they targeted African Americans, right? Bring them to a press conference and say, he was denied the right to vote, she was denied the right to vote. This is an outrage. Are you going to allow Americans to vote or are you not? I want the Republicans to come out here and say they are against these people. And so they didn't do that, but you did do this movie.
And it's filled with just that. It's person after person after person. You have them on your show. They're incredible. They're eloquent. They're lovely. We want them to speak around the country. We want them to do press conferences and make them available, because that's where what we do in terms of film and storytelling is off the charts powerful. It's one thing to read something, it's another thing to know the numbers, but when you're looking at an 89-year-old man and he says, I should be allowed to vote, it's a whole other thing. A young woman talks about, she used to go when her parents would vote, and it was so exciting to her. She says, little me. And then she goes for the first time.
Yep, you guys gotta check it out. It's called Suppress, The Fight to Vote. And like I said, we'll have the link down below on YouTube and Facebook in the description box, bravenewfilms.org/suppress. Robert, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure,
Really appreciate
thank you.
Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.